I'm literally in tears. That was so beautiful.
You are
Oh my
beautiful.
gosh. I manifested the Met. It was like I had a vision like I was That's So Raven.
Some women enter the room and they change the energy. Ivy Coco, she shifts the intention. Before styling the stars or leading a healing walk through LA, she was crafting a language of her own, one stitched in memory, shaped by movement, and rooted in something so much deeper than a trend. A third-generation fashion architect, yes, but Ivy has never lived in the shadow of anyone. She is not only a reflection of what came before her, she is the evolution of it. I'm so grateful to be speaking with her today. Let's take a look at the wondrous Ivy Coco Maurice.
Stylist, community builder, creative architect. Ivy Coco moves at the intersection of fashion and healing. She's not just shaping style, she's building sanctuaries, moving bodies. As vice president of WalkGood LA, she helps lead one of the country's most vibrant wellness collectives, where Black joy, movement, and activism converge. Healing meets movement and justice. The daughter of the legendary Sheryl Lee Ralph is continuing in her ancestral purpose. Her artistry is both wearable and communal, clothes that speak through generations. In every thread and every gathering, Ivy is a style prophet whose vision stretches beyond the mirror, calling forth the spirit of every woman who aimed to be seen and held in the light. This is Ivy Coco Maurice.
That literally is bringing tears to my eyes.
Do you want a tissue?
No. I'm literally in tears. That was so beautiful.
You are
Oh my gosh. I was like, that's me? I mean, I know it's me, but wow, the way you were able to just present that just so beautifully. I'm like, it took me a moment to just like take a deep breath and just digest everything. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
You packaged that together beautifully. Taking the words right out of my mouth.
Oh, we'll take a deep breath together. We'll just
inhale through the nose. Exhale through the nose. All right, we're back to our center.
Thank you, Ivy.
Thank you.
Everything you create is a homecoming. It is a testimony. And I'm just so excited to dive into everything we're about to get into today.
Thank you. I really received that. Thank you.
How is your heart? How is your mind? How is your spirit in this season of your life?
Right now, my heart is very calm. Like, I definitely feel like one thing I really struggled with was honestly like struggling with not being present. And I think now that I'm in a position where I'm really practicing stability, I have stability within my home life, within my work life, it's really allowed me to be just calm from within. And I'm grateful for the routine that I have. There's a lot going on, just building in the community, in my career, and in my personal life as well. A lot of those things tend to intersect. And I just have to remind myself, I just need to see the step in front of me. I really don't have to see the light at the end of the tunnel all the time. I just got to see the next step. So that's what I'm focusing on right now, to stay more present.
Yeah. I love that you talk about a routine and stability, because in the midst of craziness and chaos, we really need that. And it has been such a monumental past few years for you. You are just evolving and growing, and you're building so many beautiful things. And when I see you and I think about purpose, I also think about surrender and what it takes to be in a state of surrender, like the action of it, because choosing your purpose is not easy. Like it could be gifted to us, but you have to choose to stand in that and then to surrender to it. What has it been like to just say yes to all the possibilities?
I think it took me a while to also start saying no. Sometimes saying yes is also about saying no. Yeah. I feel at one point in time, I could do everything all at once and try and show up for as many people all at once. And then I really had to take a step back and be like, okay, you know, am I really practicing what I should be doing to get to the next level, or being in a position to operate in my purpose, to really just trust God and trust the process. And I think that's really the root of it, of being able to surrender, is trusting, having a lot of faith, like believing in the things that you can't even see. And that faith and that practice in faith was the moment I was like, okay, I can let go and let God. And I think for me, that's what surrendering looked like. And it felt like a deep breath. It felt like a release. It was like, I really didn't have to worry anymore, because I'm doing the things that really serve me in this moment in my life. I'm happy doing them, but also it's not like I'm just happy doing it because it's for me. I'm doing it, it's because I'm doing things with the people I love, for the people I love, for my community. And I know it's in divine order. I know I am not just my parents' wildest dreams. I'm my grandparents' wildest dreams. I'm my grandparents' wildest dreams. So I know that this is not just on me, it's in me, you know?
What does that feel like, knowing that it's in you?
I feel like it is my grandmother telling me, what's for you can't be on for you. And, you know, that's basically Patois' way of saying, like, you know, what finds you, it won't miss you. What's for you won't miss you, you know? And I have to just remind myself that daily affirmation of me saying everything is working out for me, everything is happening for me, not to me. And so reminding myself of all of those affirmations throughout my daily life is really just my grandmother's affirmation that she was probably saying to herself, that I have just been able to inherit, and it's become my second voice. I feel like the one thing with affirmations, it becomes like the things that you've probably heard the most. And I was so encouraged, I was so empowered by the women in my life, including my mother and my grandmother and my auntie, Miss May. So those three women have become my inner voice because I've always been empowered.
It almost becomes like an intuition as well. If you really tune in and listen, it can guide you and
Absolutely.
lead you. Yeah.
You have to be really willing to receive as well. And I think I've allowed myself on this journey through these past 3 to 4 years is just reminding myself to stay open, keeping my heart open, keeping my mind open, keeping my ears open, allowing myself to really remain a student in life. You know, I don't want to be anyone that, you know, comes off as like I know everything, because I really don't. And I truly appreciate mentorships and relationships and true connections, just in energy and in conversation that I have with people. Like, I value those networks and those connections deeply.
What do you feel like is one thing you're learning right now?
One thing that I will always probably be learning, but I'm also learning right now, is to be patient with myself. I think I'm also still working on time management, and it goes back to the root of me saying no, you know, to say yes.
Standing firm in that.
Yes, standing firm and saying no. And my sister cousin Marley reminded me, you know, if you really don't have the capacity to do something, just say that. And I've been taking the words, I don't have the capacity, into practice right now. So I've been actively saying that, you know what, I would love to do this at this moment or during this time, but I am at capacity and my schedule doesn't allow me to. And standing firm in that and just utilizing that when times are really like at a max, and saying, okay, I might have to tap out for the day, because I also have to realize if I got 7 things done off of the list of 10, I still got a lot done. I got 70% done out of the day. That's not bad. I can't, you know, put a lot of pressure on myself because I didn't get those last 3 things done. I got to be okay with, you know, that progress, and realize that, hey, that's 7 things done more than I did last week, or, you know, yesterday, or a couple days before. So I have to be proud of that. I got to be proud of my progress.
Yes, no matter what it looks like. Because sometimes progress is rest.
Yes.
Sometimes it's the sacred no. And just knowing, like you said, what can I do today? How can I show up for myself? And if I did 70% off the list, that's a success.
That's a success. I did something.
Yeah, I did something.
I did something.
Grace. There's a lot of grace in that.
Absolutely. I have to be tender with myself at times. Like, I realize that I'm very hard on myself. I'm like, if you don't do this, you're going to suffer the consequences.
I resonate with that.
And I think it's one of those things that as a child, my parents, you know, that was their stern words. Like, if you don't do this, you know, you will suffer the consequences. But not allowing that to become like, not to internalize those words in a bad way. Like, you know what? If you didn't do this today, Coco, you are like a bad person. Like, that is the thing where I'm also just making sure that I am not hard on myself. Like, we all talk about, you know, having like a soft life and, you know, practicing that throughout our day to day. But I need to talk to myself in a nice and kind way as well. I need to respect my time in a nice and kind way, my energy, so I'm able to receive and also give that.
Yeah. I resonate with that so deeply because my inner critic is so hard. The voice in my head can be so hard on myself. And what you said too, how we were raised, sometimes it's that you didn't do enough. You got to do more.
Yeah.
And it's unlearning what that softness and how I speak to myself looks like.
Yeah.
When you find yourself in those moments sometimes, what is that practice of rewiring almost?
Oh yeah, my breath. Like, I have to come back to my center. I really do practice like active breath work on my daily routine in my car. I spend a lot of time driving, picking up garments, and I feel like my car has become like a meditation station for me. And there are moments where I really choose not to even drive with music on. Like, I'll drive in silence, and you know, a lot of people can, you know, get lost in their thoughts. But for me, it's just a moment of just clarity. You know, it's a moment of peace. I can really like talk to myself. I'm very present. I'm not looking at email. That's illegal. You shouldn't drive and text and do any of those things. But I'm very present with myself. And sometimes just rolling down my window, feeling that breeze. I'm taking in those moments as also just moments to rewire and reset, because I'm closing out the noise when I close my door. I'm like, okay, I'm in my little meditation vehicle
Bubble.
My little bubble, my little car ride for that moment. So I think I reset just through my breath. My brother often reminds me that, you know, we come into this life with our breath and we leave with our breath. And so I just utilize that as a powerful tool while I'm here living.
It's such a powerful thing, the breath. And I think also that what I'm hearing you say too is overstimulation sometimes. The presence is the key to kind of bring you back to your center. Because I don't drive with music sometimes either.
Yeah.
Like, let me just silence because these drivers are crazy.
No.
And I need to be present in that moment, and then I won't be overstimulated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like it's also something I've acquired it's also something I started doing as I've gotten older. So maybe it's just maybe the evolution of growth, or just, you know, really sinking into my adulthood. This is my routine. This is what I do. But don't get me wrong, listening to good music is also a great form of meditation as well. I do both. There's just balance. Yes, there's balance.
I love, so you mentioned picking up garments. We're going to get into the styling sister.
Yay.
What is meant for you is meant for you. The legacy and the torch that you have just picked, this mantle that you've picked up. I love seeing everything you do, first of all. I want to just say congratulations to everything, because you're not just picking clothes. You're telling stories. You are weaving a narrative through every client that you work with. And I love seeing how you tell those stories and how you allow your client to show up through what they're wearing too. What were some of the most pivotal decisions in you really saying yes to your passion of telling this narrative through clothes?
I think I've always chosen this path for myself. It's been in me. It's ingrained in who I am. It's in my DNA, literally, because of my grandmother, but also was the time that I spent with my grandmother that really lives inside of me, that really keeps me active and keeps the passion fiery. Because I just think about those moments where I would go into my grandmother's cutting room and I would take up remnants and I'd be like, okay, what can I make out of these remnants, you know, first it was a pillow, then it was like, you know, a table covering, then it turned into a curtain. And then sometimes as a kid, it was like play food, you know, trying to create my own little restaurant with fabrics. And my grandfather would pretend to like eat my food that I've made with fabrics. So I was telling stories in so many different ways through just texture and different types of fabric ever since I was a little kid. So I think it chose me before I chose it. And I think that's what I've really been able to lean into. And it wasn't something that it was forced. It was very natural. I think my parents naming me after both my grandmothers, because my name is Ivy Victoria, actually. My brother gave me the nickname Coco. So named after both of my grandmothers, Victorine Maurice and Ivy Ralph, on my mother and father's side, these were women that were strong. They were elegant. They were both very much trendsetters, both inspired by fashion, and they were classic, fierce women. And I think I look at that and I'm like, wow, this is really who I am. I come from this. And I have to acknowledge this because it would be a disservice to myself, and it will be a disservice to my seed, the people that I bring into the next generation. Like, I have to know where I come from to know where I'm going, so I can really give this to my children. And I think that it's important to embrace exactly who we are. And I'm just so grateful for the experiences that my parents really have given me throughout my entire life, even up to now being a 30-year-old. Like, the experiences, being able to have, you know, different citizenships in different countries, to be raised in different countries, to live a life, you know, speaking a different language. It's very beautiful. And I look back at it and it's just, I come from such a rich family, a rich culture, a rich history. And I'm so grateful that my parents were very intentional about how I was going to learn about my family. And that really was time. And I think I heard somebody say this, that children spell love Time. And I feel like I got a lot of time with the people I love, and I don't take that for granted.
I'm taking that in. I love time, yes. How important is it for you to just be so rooted in your family and where you come from, like Jamaica? I remember you saying growing up back home, you would hear the humming of the sewing machines.
Yeah, that was like my quote unquote alarm clock in a sense.
Ooh.
But it was my grandmother waking up at 5:30 a.m. doing her devotionals, turning on her, you know, her cassette player, playing her gospel music. She would hum and she would start cutting her clothes so her workers were prepared for the day. They already had their assignments. They knew how many patterns they needed to sew. Whatever needed to be cut, my grandmother was already ahead of the game. She was just always prepared. She said, you know, you don't have to like get ready when you just stay ready. So that was one of my things that I always remembered of how to really be a good leader, is staying on top of things, preparation. Also, she reminded me that self-preservation is the first rule of nature, Coco. Self-preservation, you know, but also preserving yourself, you know, having your own time. That's also very important. So, you know, persistence, patience, but also self-preservation, you know. She had these little like euphemisms, these little sayings that just are ingrained in who I am. And at random moments, I'll just say them to myself. And I'm like, wow, like, I am really like the new Miss Ivy. Like, I am really Miss Ivy. Whoa, like, it's kind of crazy. But I love it. I feel like she was the best mentor in my life. And she's still mentoring me. Even though she's passed on, I can feel her in certain moments. Her energy lives with me. I really don't feel like she's gone. I genuinely feel like she is living this life with me because she had to run so I could walk. She set the foundation of the path that I'm walking on right now. So I'm like, okay, how can I do what she did and more for somebody else? So I'm just following her footsteps, but I'm also creating my own path.
And that you are, sis. Your grandmother, Ivy Ralph, she created the House of Ivy.
Yeah.
And
House
she
of
also is the blueprint. I mean, she created the Kuriba. Could you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the Kariba was really an idea that my grandmother had when she was a young girl. Like, I think she always respected parliament and politics, distinguished men, people of just order and presentation. And as a child, she was always wondering, why are the men sweating, like in their suit and ties? Like, as a nation, as Jamaicans, we need to be presentable. And so when she was able to really develop her life and travel abroad, she was able to find some stability. She took a plane, a train, and a boat to get from Jamaica all the way to New York. And she met my grandfather, Dr. Stanley Lee Ralph. He was a switchboard operator at Harlem Hospital, and she was a nurse. And I love seeing their relationship, come together and unfold, because he was one of her biggest supporters. I was going through my my grandparents' kind of like old stash during COVID, and I found a letter that he wrote to her. And he was like, "My dear beloved, how are you? I'm at home with the kids. Hopefully you're in Paris finding the best fabrics." And I'm like, whoa, she had 4 kids and her husband is writing her a letter. And it's basically also, it was like, hey, here's your Amex so you can buy some fabrics, when you're in Europe. And I was like, wow, to have a partner really support your vision, that's giving you time to say, hey, I'm with the kids at the moment. Please pursue your dreams. I think that really pushed her into the leader that she was, but it was already ingrained in who she was as a woman. She already had this vision of the Kuriba when she was a child. So, I think when you have support, it really takes dreams to the next level. So in the 70s, she really was able to make sure that the Kuriba got its shine. And in the 1960s, that's when Jamaica was able to establish their independence. And so she was like, this is a time where we don't just have to feel good as a people, but we have to look good as a people. And so Michael Manley, the prime minister at the time, he was very fond of her work. And it was so different because different countries had different things and different attire. So I know Kenya during the 60s and the 90s, they had the kaunda, which is a different type of Kariba in a sense. Places like Mexico and Cuba, they had the gayerba or gayabera. I think that it was called gayabera. And it was very much a play on the bush jacket. That was very much an outfit in uniform for men during that time era. But the Kuriba was so different because it had its own vibe, and it was the essence. And I see this picture in my head with Michael Manley and Maurice Bishop and some other, political figures in the photo, and him wearing his Kuriba was such a monumental just moment for the island of Jamaica. Yeah. And it's just like, wow, to know that my grandmother was able to dress such powerful men, dignitaries, people that were also diplomats, making a difference, not just, within their homeland, but around the world. Mm-hmm. And this movement of Pan-Africanism, the form of, through fashion, we are going to decolonize ourselves from not just, the people that have taken over, which were the British. Mm-hmm. We want to separate not just from who they were, but also the dressing, the formal attire, the westernized attire, and say, hey, we can now make our own rules, but we can also show up and feel good about ourselves through our own fashion.
Hey, beautiful people, a quick little break to talk to you about one of my latest partnerships, Sky and Soul Sunscreen. I love this product. Look at the bottle. It is empty. I need to re-up. I started using it in Trinidad, just testing it out when I was in the ocean, the pool, all these things. And then I realized how safe my skin felt using this product. No breakouts, no white cast, nothing. this product is 80 minutes water resistant. Not only do I get the glow, but it's literally skin food. Every single ingredient in this is edible. So it has tallow, propolis, beeswax, jojoba oil, and all of these beautiful ingredients that is just like this yummy, delicious recipe for your skin. If you want 10% off of your next order with Sky and Soul sunscreen, you can use the code KennedyW.
And here she is today still.
Yeah.
The Met.
The Met.
Girl.
The Met.
Oh, congratulations, first of all.
Thanks.
When I saw that post
Thank you.
of you just crying, like for gratitude for, I mean, everything.
Yes.
I felt like I was there with you because I'm like,
I feel like the Met, I have to take a moment and say manifestation is real. Mm-hmm. I manifested the Met. Mm-hmm. It was like I had a vision, like I was That's So Raven. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I believe you.
And I called my brother after I had this vision back in 2023. We were celebrating our 3-year anniversary of WalkGood LA, our nonprofit.
Yes.
And I said, Etienne, I had a vision. The world is going to see Grandy's Kuriba around the world. Like this is literally my legacy. This is what I'm supposed to do. And so for our 3-year anniversary, we were curating our art gallery, and the main exhibit piece was my grandmother's Kuriba that I put on a black mannequin, and the description kind of framed the mannequin and the history. And I knew in that moment that the world was going to see the Kuriba. I didn't know how, but I saw it in my brain. And you really do have to see it to believe it.
You do. You have to envision it.
You have to really envision it.
In detail.
Yeah. And then another level of belief is experiencing it. And then when I got that email early September 2024.
Yeah, because you knew a year before?
Yeah, almost a year, a little bit less than a year. But September of 2024, I received an email from Monica Miller, Professor Monica Miller. And the craziest thing is that I was taking a break from like social media and Instagram. And I was telling myself like, oh, I'm not going to be on Instagram. I'm really just going to detox and, be present for a little while. I opened my Instagram and I saw like DMs from her from like the House of Ivy page and my personal page. And then also I saw a few emails that I guess, and I was like, wait, I think I've responded like maybe 2 weeks later. And I thought the opportunity was gone. I really did. But I remembered what my grandmother said. What's for you can be on for you. And I remembered that this was a moment that wasn't going to pass me. And she responded. We were on Zoom calls. She just asked a lot of questions, wanted to know my grandmother's history. How did this vision come to play? What was her inspirations? And I was like, wow, I manifested the Met. It happened. Like I literally had to put together my own version of it. Yeah. And I had to tell the story. I had to share the story so somebody else could see the story. Because I also created the House of Ivy page back in 2020, 2021 during COVID, because I spent a lot of time in my grandmother's house during COVID, going through some of her old artifacts, but also my mother's garage. I spent a lot of time in my mom's garage, and I found a lot of my grandmother's designs from the 60s and the 70s that she made for women and not just men, and things that she made for my mother in moments that were very monumental for her. So, like certain school recitals or like her 16th birthday, just, things that she wore in her 20s. Like it was just so beautiful to see all of these pieces that my grandmother made. And I was like, wow, these are things that I would wear now. And I think it brings it all together of who Miss Ivy was. She was a class act woman. And she always said, class, you have it or you not have it. Style, you have it or you not have it. And I look at her pieces now and I'm able to open them out in boxes. And I'm like, wow, the quality feels good. The style is classic. Everything is intact because she sewed and weft so much into her garments. It wasn't just, a pattern. It was emotion. It was history. It was her touch. It was exactly who she was in a garment.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I had chills listening to all of that. That is so powerful because your grandmother made these things for your mom. And now you're dressing your mom too.
Yeah.
When you were at the Met and you saw all of this come together, did that feel like a full circle moment, or did it feel like we're just getting started?
It felt like both.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is just the beginning. More museums are going to see House of Ivy. There are so many more pieces outside of the Kuriba that I want to tell within her story that people should know about. You know, she didn't just dress the powerful men, she dressed their wives too. So, you know, she didn't just dress, you know, Michael Manley. She dressed one of his former wives, Beverly Manley, as well. So she was doing a lot, and I can't wait to tell more of the story. She deserves that. You know, I think about impact and I think about legacy.
Yes.
And I'm like, the things you want people to know after you're gone are really important. Because I'm like, my grandmother has been dead for almost 7 years, and she's making an impact now. But she had to do everything. She had to go through everything. She had to have the children. She had to have me. She had to teach me everything so I could create this moment. Like, I had to make the connection. I had to put the plug into the socket. Right. You know, I had to be a shift maker in this entire process. But I was so passionate about it. You know, I want to be passionate about the people I love. I want to be passionate about the people that I come from. You know, like I don't take this lightly at all. Like it's an honor. It's an honor to be the granddaughter of Ivy Ralph. It really is. OD, Order of Jamaica, actually, because in Jamaica you do establish a certain status and you are recognized for that. And so she has Order of Distinction at the end of her last name. Yes.
That says it all.
Yes.
What a blessing it is for you to just continue this generational tapestry, because your grandmother is at the center of everything. You and your brother Etienne and your cousin Marley created WalkGood LA.
Yes.
You have Run Good LA, you have Film Good LA, everything good in here, yeah?
Yes.
Walk on.
Yeah, girl. Everything is good. I feel like when you have WalkGood, it's such an easy name to like play on, but WalkGood was actually my brother's production company, like WalkGood Productions. And so when we were protesting in 2020, after the first, protest, he was like, "We are WalkGood LA," and everything just became WalkGood, and people really felt like we were a walk in LA. Like people were like, "Oh, they're a walking group," and we're like, "No, WalkGood is a Jamaican phrase that we just use when you're leaving home and just say, yeah, walk good, make sure you get to your destination safely." Yeah. So for us, it's just one of them things like we just say within the household. It was very normal for us, but then it became a movement. What was normal became like one of the biggest movements that lives in Los Angeles, and I feel like WalkGood has become like the pulse of who we are in Los Angeles. It's like the heartbeat. We, in a sense, remind people who they are. Some people feel revived. Some people feel alive. People feel aligned. And I'm so glad that we're able to just create safe spaces for people to really remind themselves who they are, because we're just, being able to facilitate the work. Yeah. The people in the community are the ones doing the work. We're just helping facilitate, The real superheroes are the ones in the community.
Showing up.
Yeah. Everyone's showing up for themselves.
And the power of so many people showing up together, choosing to do the work together. Yeah. This is changing generations so far ahead that we, like you said before, we can't even see.
Yeah, I think about it now and I'm like, wow, these type of practices, I wonder what they would have looked like maybe if I were a teenager. But I'm so grateful that they exist now, and I'm so glad that I could be at the forefront of it with my brother and my cousin. They are amazing. They, I think we're just also realizing that we're so much more powerful together.
Yes.
Like when we operate on the same page and all of our perspectives come together, I feel very unstoppable with them. And I think we are breaking that stigma too. A lot of people are saying, don't work with your family or don't work with your sibling. And I want to be able to break that stigma. I love these people. I think working with your family will bring you closer together. I love working with my mother. Like, I think that we're just practicing what a lot of people in the past we're doing. You know,
Bringing it forward.
exactly.
Forward.
Yeah, forward ever, backwards never.
Never.
You know, so, you know, a lot of people that were unmelanated were doing a lot of this, putting their children in positions, and legacy is important.
Yeah.
And I want to just make sure that it's not just something that they feel like it's owed to them. You know, I don't want my kids to be like, oh, this is owed to me. Like, you got to really practice it. You got to know this. You have to earn all of this, all of the history that we come from. We have to really practice it in our everyday life, you know, so it becomes routine for us, our ancestral routine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, ancestral routine. There's people in LA who felt like you can't build community. And WalkGood is the pulse. I mean, I remember seeing when you guys started and you had Run Good, and then all these other run clubs started showing up. You know, it's such a beautiful sanctuary, honestly, to create that for a wellness collective.
Yeah.
I think about the activism, right? Because that kind of started it was kind of the first thing that brought this into the limelight.
Yeah, no. WalkGood LA was birthed out of the racial uprisings in COVID-19. My brother Etienne was definitely moved by the death of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor. But it was specifically Ahmaud Arbery because, you know, we had just heard about his killing and we wanted to do a running protest. And my brother's like, no, we're going to run 3 miles, 5K. You know, that was the birth of Run Good. That was the birth of Walk Good because it was a running protest. That healing is also a movement. It's also, you know, something that can heal us as a community and bring us together. And we were living in a time that we were saying, I can't breathe. And we were trying to find ways of how can we breathe individually and also as a community. Yeah, and reminding people to breathe. You know, like, I don't take that for granted. You know, I think I had to remind myself. My cousin Marley was the one teaching the stretches before we would go on the run, saying inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose, you know, finding ways to calm our heart down. How do we do that in ways when we're also not moving or when things, you know, become too much for us and we are at capacity? So, yeah, I think all of us were at capacity during COVID-19.
During that time.
Yeah.
I think healing is a protest. Healing is activism too, because it might not always be going in the streets with signs.
Yeah.
Creating wellness collectives, building a garden, building a community garden, buying land. Like, these are all forward progressions that we can have as a community because these systems were never built for us.
Yeah.
And we continuously see that and we're reminded nothing is going to change.
Yeah.
We have to be the change that we seek.
Of course. I think it's also one of those things where I'm consistently reminding myself that yes, we have to be the change that we want to see in this world, but we also just have to practice that within ourselves. You know, like, what does our personal practice look like so I can show up better? You know, I think I had to unlearn a lot of things about myself when we first started WalkGood LA. That was patience, you know. How do I give grace to other people? And it's really started off with myself. Like, you really do have to practice kindness to yourself and what that looks to be a better leader. Because at one point, like, I'm looking at it now, I'm like, we're 5 years in to doing this work. How? Like, time, but you just keep going and you keep going and you keep going. And I think WalkGood LA is also breaking the stigma of Los Angeles being a sunny city with shady people. There is community. There is love. We're also LA natives. You know, we love our city. You know, I always say a West Indian from West LA. You know, so I have to big up both my sides.
Absolutely.
But I take a lot of pride in where I come from, how I was raised in this city, and there's so many beautiful parts of it. And I think WalkGood LA shows that.
As you pivot, as you evolve, what keeps you personally rooted?
What keeps me personally rooted is knowing that this is just the beginning. Like, I don't even think I've scratched off of 10% of what God has for me in store.
Because the blessings are big.
Yeah, the blessings are big. Me no want think small. I want big blessings. I want everything, you know, that God really wants for me. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about, really surrendering and being present, is that like I'm actively knowing and actively practicing that everything is a setup. You know, I have to remind myself, girl, you're not having a breakdown, you're having a breakthrough. Yes. I'm not having a breakdown. I'm having a breakthrough. It's a setup for something greater. My best friend Saran always reminds me the top of one mountain is always the bottom of another. So you have to keep climbing, you have to keep going. But I'm so excited about the future. Like, it's the faith that I have. It's that mustard seed faith, knowing that something greater is coming. And that's the mentality that keeps me going. It's really my mindset has shifted. I've allowed myself to choose faith over fear. Like, I really don't worry. And a lot of the times, a lot of us are carrying somebody else's anxiety. We're carrying somebody else's thoughts about us. And letting go of all of that has allowed me to become so much more freer in how I operate, how I feel about myself. It's really a lot of letting go that I practice also daily, is releasing what no longer serves me for this day, for this moment, or for this current situation in my life.
And you have to have the discernment too. That's a big part of it, of knowing this is not my energy that I'm carrying, or this is not my anxiety.
Yes.
And knowing to let it go.
Anxiety is really just a form of not being able to stay present. That's what anxiety is. And so I just want to not practice that. Right. I have to really have a different mindset, because anxiety is something I used to have, or I used to say to myself and repeat it like, oh my God, I have so much anxiety, I'm not going to go through this. And I had it so bad that in high school, I had to get like extra time. And I thought that was a bad thing. But it wasn't a bad thing, you know. It was just the fact that I had to be more patient with myself and give myself, you know, more time, and allow myself to just breathe. Yeah, like, so now it's like that letting go is letting go of my inability to stay present. I'm reminding myself that there is something greater. If I don't keep that mindset, that's what really causes people and myself to not be able to let go. It's like knowing that, okay, is it going to work out? No, you have to just continuously remind yourself that it is going to work out.
And affirming that.
Yeah, always.
Hearing you talk about also being rooted so deeply in your family, it's so inspiring to see from the outside looking in the relationship that you have with your mom and how you style her, just everything. I remember seeing you and your brother film yourselves when you first saw your mom win her first Emmy.
It was amazing.
Oh my gosh, because you feel the emotion.
Yeah.
It's so, like you said, you love on your people hard. What has your mom taught you about resilience and just the vision that she's poured into your life as well?
Oh my gosh, Shirley Rao is a divine superhuman.
An icon.
Like, she is, I think about where I am right now in my life and going back to my grandmother. And when my grandmother died, she always said, take care of your mama. And it was like some of her last words that she told me. So I'm like, why, Granny, like, why are you telling me to take care of her? Like, what's going on? And she said, she can't manage. She can't manage. Like, this next stage without me, I need you to really, like, support her. And I got the opportunity to be my mom's stylist, because this was also a process. She asked me, like, you know, is this something that you feel like you really want to do? Because I felt like styling was something I just did at the side. I would do for friends' music videos. I would do for friends that had photo shoots, or people that just maybe needed my eye or just lens or expertise on things. It wasn't my full-on practice. And I was working in the corporate space, actually. And I was doing creative direction for a French skincare company. So, you know, I was so used to, you know, maybe being under somebody else's orders. So now I had to really step out on faith. But it clicked when I stepped out on faith, because I felt like this was my grandmother affirming me, like, take care of your mama.
That was the message.
That was the message. And so when I got this opportunity, this wasn't just me styling my mother, it's me taking care of my mother. You know, knowing that my mother and I have a great age gap in between us, it's beautiful because she's open to learning more about my generation. And I think that's the thing that really keeps us afloat and staying on trend with things, is that her sense of optimism, her sense of wanting to try different things, but also she's a perfect balance for me because she always reminds me classic. You know, classic. And I love anything classic. I love classic looks. I love black. I love certain colors that just remind you of regal old Hollywood. And I feel like timeless is what she is. And that's what we want to be able to convey through fashion. But I've learned so much from my mother too. Like, I'm not just teaching her, she's also teaching me.
That synergy.
Yes. I mean, she's a wizard at certain things when it comes down to making a garment shorter or nick it in the back to make it tighter. Like, she's so smart because she has so much experience being on Broadway, working on sets. And I think I don't take for granted also the moments that I had growing up on the set of Moesha. Like, everything is so divine with my family and what we're doing. Seeing my brother and us do our nonprofit, but also him pursue his dream of being an actor and a director is so divine because Etienne loved being able to just go on set and be right behind the director's camera. And like, he was really embracing who he was going to become. And I love being in the wardrobe department. I love being in the makeup department. So I was really able to like embrace who I was going to become. So I don't feel like I am operating out of order. I am exactly in divine order right now because I realized these were practices and things that we just gravitated to as children. You know, my mom never had to like force anything on me. She never had to force anything on my brother. It was very much natural.
That is such divine order. For you both to have the opportunity to be on set and to like have that divine lesson and learning of just observing, because observing, being present, and you just knowing, ooh, I like this.
Oh yeah. There's a reason why I support a lot of Black designers and I support like Black makeup artists and people that are in the creative space, hairdressers, creative directors, everybody, Black creatives, period, is because I grew up on the set of Moesha. Like seeing
foundation.
Like, yes, like seeing Mara Brock Akil in the writer's room, you know, seeing the hair and makeup. Like, these were people, to me, I look at them as like legends, you know, like these are people where I was like, oh, we can do things for us by us. I've always grown up seeing that because also growing up in a West Indian household, I would go back to Jamaica and yes, our prime minister was Black. My doctor in Jamaica is a Black woman. My dentist is a Black man. Like, I've seen representation my whole life when it comes down to people that look like us, you know? So I never thought that being something out of the ordinary was out of reach. It might have been out of reach for somebody else because they didn't see it. But for me, I knew anything was possible because I saw Black people working in entertainment. I saw Black people working in politics. I saw Black entrepreneurship. Anything was possible because I was in spaces and places where my parents put me that I knew were going to propel me forward.
What do you feel like, and there might be many answers to this question, but what do you feel like was one of the most pivotal decisions in you just saying the yes to styling? I'm just curious. Because like you said, it was a side thing.
Yeah, it was a side thing. Yeah. But you know what? It's so funny because I knew I was not going to be a stylist. I worked on Calvin Harris and Rihanna's music video, This Is What You Came For. And I was an assistant stylist on it. And I was like, yo, this is not my thing, you know? I am hauling and pulling clothes left and right. I was tired. Like, yo, tired to... can't even say what I was going to say. But I was tired, and I was working these hours that was crazy. And I was like, you know what? After 3 or 4 music videos, I was like, okay, I don't know if maybe styling is my thing. But I knew that it was something I was passionate about. But I think about things like my first retail job, and I worked at Express, and I worked in men's suiting, and that was my department. And I think about everything I was doing before doing creative direction for a French skincare brand, and it all had to do with fashion. And I was like, even if I was working at a fashion marketing firm, or if I was interning at a retail management firm, working retail, assisting a stylist, it all went back to fashion. And I was like, well, I've been working on other people. I have certain experiences. I could always use more, but I think I have a good foundation and understanding of what this is. And I've made a lot of connections. This influencer world really took off when I was like in college, and I networked. One of my best relationships was, or with myself, honestly, and certain designers, was going to study abroad in England. So I really was able to just understand, fashion through a European lens. And also my father being a French African man, spending time in Paris, learning going abroad taught me so much. And so I had to take all of that into consideration before I was going to be like, okay, I am going to take on this job, not just because, yes, I know that I can do it, but I'm also prepared to do it. And it's my purpose. It's my purpose. Like, it actually is who I am. And there were moments where I felt like I wanted to give up. And then my mom found my sketches when I was a kid. I think our generation, or people don't even know about collages anymore. You know what I mean?
I love a good
or
like
collage.
In the journal,
yes.
cutting things out.
I know.
And putting it
that
all
was
together.
So cute.
Yes,
it was so cute.
It allows you to be present.
Yes, I mean, everybody will just say, it's a vision board. Yes, but they were like certain like cool sketches and collages that I had as a kid.
So she reminded you of
and
that.
she put it on my bedside, and she was like, "This is why you started." And I was like, oh my God, yes, this is why I started. Like, I had to, but she believed in me, like she knew. And then, my clientele went from like just being friends and, assistant jobs to like, Lisa Leslie, that was but then, corporate women that were in these businesses.
Yeah, Naomi
like,
Cowan.
Yes, Noemi. Why did I say Noemi? Naomi Cowan. Naomi is actually like one of my very dear sister friends. And so I feel like with the women that I work with, it's not just like, oh yeah, let's just work together. It's really energy. It's really like, I don't look at styling as something that is just a job. It's really being of service to people. And it's, I'm not in the practice of just making people looking good. I want people to feel good about themselves. And I've really been able to bring my practice in with like just my wellness practice of breathwork into my clients, because there are a lot of people that feel great. You know when a client is wearing their outfit. It's not wearing them.
The outfit isn't wearing them.
Exactly. They're really wearing it. It's their energy, their essence, their confidence shifts right when they put on a garment. But then sometimes people are about to hit the red carpet and it's like, oh my God, like it's a lot. There's a lot going on. And sometimes I'm so grateful that I'm there to be with clients, just be like, hey, take a deep breath in through the nose, hold at the top, exhale through the nose. Like, I'm so glad that I'm knowledgeable. So it's like, yes, to me, styling isn't just about looking good. It's about feeling good. And if we just knew how many people that are like in entertainment that really do need to be reminded of, take a deep breath. Take a second for yourself before you get out of your vehicle and hit that red carpet, before you enter this room where you're about to speak to a bunch of people. How do you really compose yourself while looking good, but also letting yourself be exactly who you're supposed to be? Yeah, you just need like a quick moment. And I think if we as just individuals and humans took more moments for ourselves, those are like the little reminders that we need. Yeah.
And it all comes together.
Yes. Everything is supposed to happen the way it's supposed to happen. happen.
Divine order.
Divine order. The one thing you know whose way I don't want to get into? I don't want to get into God's way. No. Like, I don't want that.
God knows what's best for me.
Absolutely.
God knows what I need, not what I want.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ivy, everything that you do feels like a love letter. A love letter to self-expression, to artistry, for the culture.
Thank you. For the people them.
For the people them.
Yeah.
Gal, what is next?
Ooh, what's next? More museums for sure. Definitely want to showcase the Kuriba more, and just also my grandmother's history. So I'm really working on that for the next phase of House of Ivy, but also putting House of Ivy into production again. You know, during COVID, 2021, I was just doing one-off pieces. Like literally, maybe a collection was like 12 pieces. I would literally just make 12 garments and just sell them off. But I think I'm more at a place now where I can, you know, find a staple piece and that be the Kuriba, and then see how that extends out into the future. And I realize I just have to start. Yeah. And, you know, I'm going to just take everybody on the process with me. You know, I really want to document this journey. I do want to also turn House of Ivy into a documentary. I think there's so many people that know so much more of the history as well, and that were able to experience that history, or herstory, I should say. And I really get their POVs, because people are getting older too. People,
we have to tell these stories.
Yeah, people are walking textbooks.
I'm so excited to support you in all of your endeavors. You are doing it.
Thank you.
It is just unfolding in such a beautiful and blessed divine order. And I'm so grateful to have spoken with you on Sacred in Real Light.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ivy.
I love that. In Real Light.
In Real Light. IRL in Real Light.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. You did your research, girl. Girl, you had me tearing up. Jaja.
Jaja.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.